Good morning, Class 7. It is the day after Thanksgiving break. I hope you're having an excellent day. We are looking at Lesson 7.4 in your Pre-Algebra textbook, so let's go ahead and take that out and get to work on that. This is page 296, Conversions. So get your notebooks ready, get those books out. 7.4, page 296, Conversions. All right, what are we looking at here? There is a special type of ratio that is useful for converting between different units of measurement. Let's illustrate how this works with a simple example. We know that there are 12 inches in a foot and there are 3 feet in a yard. Suppose you want to use this information to compute the number of inches in a yard. Of course, you can probably do this problem in your head, or you may even have the answer memorized. But let's carefully work through 2 methods that we can use to solve the problem. These methods will help us work through harder conversion problems when the answer is not so obvious. All right, so one way to do this is to set this up in terms of ratios. So we're going to have 2 different ratios right now, inches to a foot, and that's how you pronounce that colon. You say the word to, the preposition to. And so obviously there are 12 inches to 1 foot. So there's one of the ratios that we're going to use. And then the other ratio is the relationship between feet and yards. That is, there are 3 feet in 1 yard. We'd like to combine this into a 3-way ratio relating all 3 units. But to do that, we need the feet amount in both of the ratios to match. The easiest way to do this is to multiply both parts of the first ratio by 3. In other words, what we want at this point is for some common unit, in this case feet, to match up in number. And right now they don't. We've got 1 and we're comparing it to 3. And so to make it match up, what we're going to do instead is we're going to take these numbers in the first ratio and we're going to triple them. We're going to multiply them by 3. In the same way that 12 inches correspond to 1 foot, 3 times 12, which is 36 inches must correspond to 3 feet. And so now I can basically almost read all the way down this line. 36 inches are the same as 3 feet. 3 feet is the same as 1 yard. And therefore, 36 inches must be the same thing as 1 yard. So that's method number 1. And I like that method. The only problem is it's not necessarily always going to be possible to make these match up directly. Sometimes you're going to end up dealing with weird numbers or with decimals, and so it's also useful to have this second method. And this second method is essentially what we call dimensional analysis. We're going to use some fractions and multiplication to change our units from whatever item we begin with to the item that we want to end with. So here's what that looks like. If instead of writing these ratios, we wrote them as fractions, we can think of them as what are called conversion factors. And this is probably what you did with them last year in the Saxon materials. Rather than the ratio, 12 inches to 1 foot, we're going to set up the fraction 12 inches is the same as 1 foot. And of course, we also know 3 feet is the same as 1 yard. At this point, we can literally just multiply across, and you'll notice, yes, we get things like 12 times 3 makes 36, but also some of our units cancel out. Foot and feet, those are the same unit. One is in the numerator, one is in the denominator, and so those cancel. And so essentially what this is saying is that there are 36 inches to 1 yard. This is giving us back the same information that the ratio did a moment ago. There are a couple key ideas you want to keep in mind as you use conversion factors. One is that you want to think of these as fractions that are equal to 1. Now that might seem a little bit strange because, of course, if we're looking at, say, 12 inches to 1 foot, that fraction does not look like 1 to me. It looks like 12. 12 over 1 is equal to 12. Similarly, 3 feet to 1 yard, that does not look like 1 to me. That looks like 3. 3 over 1 is the same as 3. Now you may be thinking to yourself, well, hold on. That's only because the units themselves are different, and that's true. That's the beauty of a conversion factor, and that's why it makes it okay to do this kind of multiplication. Essentially, we are multiplying by a form of 1. Yes, 12 to 1 is 12, but 12 inches to 1 foot, when we incorporate the units there, that's actually the same thing, right? 12 inches are 1 foot. And so that's the sense in which that conversion factor is actually just a fraction equal to 1. The second key concept is that because these are equal to 1, we can multiply them, and it's not going to change our quantity. It's not going to turn 36 inches into 48 inches or something like that, but it is going to change the units. And it's going to change the units by canceling units. So we can cancel units in precisely the same way that we cancel common factors out of fractions. If I were to rewrite this same calculation, but I was to separate out the numbers and the units, we have 12 times 3 over 1 times 1. And then as far as the units go, we have inches times feet, and then feet or foot, same thing, times yards. Again, just like we do with common factors, if I have feet over feet, those units themselves cancel out. 12 times 3 is once again 36, and so I'm seeing that relationship 36 inches per 1 yard, or 36 inches per yard. The other great thing about computing conversions this way is that because these fractions are equal to 1, we can flip them upside down and it doesn't change anything. 1 over 1 is the same thing as 1 over 1. If we reverse the numerator and the denominator, the fraction does not actually change. And so I can just as easily convert the other direction. I could take something like 6 yards, let's say, and I want to convert that into inches. I know that 6 yards can be multiplied by 1, because everything can be multiplied by 1. And I now know that I have this conversion factor that is the same thing essentially as 1. But I want to cancel out the yards, so I'm going to put yards here on the bottom, and the thing I want to turn it into, inches, I'm going to put at the top. From there I can say, all right, we figured out there are 36 inches to 1 yard, and now I can see the yards cancel out. My only unit left over is going to be inches, so my answer right now is going to be in inches. And then 6 times 36 is the same thing as 12 times 18 is the same thing as 216. So 216 inches correspond to those 6 yards. All right, you've got 5 problems on page 299, 7.17 through 7.21. There are, of course, explanations on the following pages, but go ahead and attempt those problems yourself, then take a look at the explanations, and be sure to ask me or Miss William any questions that you have, or Miss Coyer for that matter. I'm sure she could answer. Y'all have a great day.